What is going on, everybody? JT here with JT Invest in You. We've got David over at Crypto for Change, and we've got C. Will with the Passive Income Network. This is the next block, and welcome back to everyone that is just joining us for the first time. Well, welcome to the people that are joining us for multiple times, and nice to meet you for those that are joining us for the first time. How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Man.
I have a little bit more sleep,
That's-
now these days since maybe 2 weeks in since the baby was born, but still a little sleep deprived.
And,
I'm good over here. Happy
the-
to see David.
For those of us, for those tuning in right now, you didn't get to see, but David blessed us with a little bit of his child before. He had it on camera, but it's going to be a little bit before he makes his debut on the live
He's
show.
watching from the audience. He's in the grandstands right now. He's got a backstage view.
Backstage passes, man. Are they NFTs?
They should be, right?
Sir.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about. There's so much happening. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's so much going on, but there's also a lot of news. So we're going to be covering market sentiment. There's a lot of shakeups at the Algorand Foundation, some new hires, somebody leaving the foundation as well, governance strategies, new applications hitting mainnet like Dequency, upgrades to Algofi, Napster's light paper came out, and a bunch more. So stick around to the end of the video, smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to all three of these channels, and let's get with it. How you guys feeling out there with the market sentiment?
You said there's FUD and uncertainty? Really?
I haven't seen too much of it, actually. I think I was making that up.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Hey, but I'm seeing, like we was talking to DMs, Algo was just bouncing in a range, right? Trading sideways. So I see the traders on there talking about doing some longs, a little bit of shorts. I'm interested in that.
I'd be careful with the longs, but
No, long is for like 1 day or less. Yeah.
But Algorand's sitting strong at about 31.5 cents. Bitcoin's at about 21,000. I think Ethereum's a little over 1,200 currently. So things are holding strong at these prices. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not bullish yet. That's
No bullish. Don't take that as advice. But I be watching, and because you're bored, we're doing some good breakdowns right now. So I'm tapping into all the chart masters for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fear out in the market, and obviously, I feel like one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of it is not just because of the price, but I feel like during the bear market, people, instead of just everybody's not high-fiving, everybody's not the experts that they thought they were maybe when they were buying and longing everything. So there is more frustrations there, but also you start really seeing kind of like some of the like Stacy said, when the tide goes out, you really see who's prepared. And I think we're seeing some of the, things that are on Algorand, maybe that weren't as prepared, and people were frustrated there. I mean, I've talked to many people who were in a lot of projects that were early on Algorand's launch that aren't doing as well now. And, they're down big. Like that is, I'm talking big money, way more money than I lost. And so, and that's some friends, obviously some people on Twitter that have DM'd me and talked to me. So, I feel it out there, and I definitely, I sympathize with people who are hurting during the bear market. But, just like there is a lot of uncertainty. It's still a time where, if you're buying into solid projects, it's a good time to be accumulating and earning some good yield. I mean, Humble DeFi just launched. I'm really enjoying that over there. I'm earning a solid amount of algo. Honestly, I've considered even pulling maybe a little bit more out of the vault from Algofi to do more farming on a Humble. But it's a push and pull type thing. I got to balance it out right. But there's a lot of opportunity out there, just like there's a lot of risk.
For the strategy you just spoke of, we'll get into strategies later on, but what you could do is use Folks Finance and get the G algo instead of borrowing. And then since it's close to parity, you might lose a little bit swapping the G algo back to algo, but as long as you lose less than what your potential rewards are for governance, it still works out to being profitable and a good strategy. And you could do that. You could use G algo, swap it back to algo, and then yield farm that way and have no borrows.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. There's definitely tons of ways right now within DeFi on Algorand to make a lot of yield, and it's not just in governance, even though obviously that's where a lot of people are at, just because it's safe and it's easy.
Yeah. I was more so just saying that so you didn't have to pull out some of governance, so you could still yield farm as much as you wanted to and participate as much as you wanted to in governance. And as I've said before, the the parity might not be exactly 1-to-1. So if you trade like 100 G algo into algo, you might get back like 99.5 or something. I'm not sure exactly
Yeah.
what it's at right now, but even still, that little bit of loss would be made up in the rewards and the yield farming. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you can also borrow. I borrowed a little bit of USDC on Algofi and then did some yield farming. A little bit more riskier,
yeah.
but I'm usually like to touch my algos like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Uh,
borrowing options are always
yeah.
available. I just like to let people know that there are other options to access that liquidity without having to also worry about being liquidated.
The good thing about like the humble example is great because since most coins already dropped, 70, 90%, we're already basically really close to a bottom, I would think. So
Hey, things
farming
can
that.
still drop 90% from the
Oh, yes, yes,
90%.
yes.
I'm just
Well, one of the experts I follow, he
Man,
said Ethereum could drop 90% from now. So
yeah,
that's like
it could.
$100 Ethereum.
I
So
mean,
many
I don't
this
think it's
I mean, there's so many things that are still under attack. I mean, I know that I've been reading the tweets. I think it was what Celsius has now paid off all of theirs, so like they're good from what
well,
tweets say. Like I don't know how.
BlockFi just got purchased by FTX.
Yeah, but
yeah,
they're just saying like there's a lot of big players that are still at risk. And I mean, and you still technically have, Bitcoin could still fall to, the lower teens. And if it does, I mean, that still puts a lot of people in, a spot where liquidations could occur. And obviously we've seen that when past liquidations have occurred, that's where you get those massive, drops in the price. Obviously, I will say Algo held up decently when Bitcoin fell. I mean, when Bitcoin was like tanking all the way down to 15 or 16K, wherever it bottomed at there, Algo held that 30 cents area pretty strong.
Where did Algo did held on and still around there, but where did Celsius get their money from? I
you know
know they
that
were
that's a big
That's
question that I've been asking because
okay.
Sam
they had
Bankman-Fried.
they
Yeah, it's not
had
just me that think of that.
yeah, well, exactly. I mean, they had a lot of money out in loans and outstanding debt, which is what
Yeah.
was causing them to be at risk of liquidation. And then all of a sudden, they have money pouring in. Is it from another loan, or are they selling equity of the company to get that money? And I haven't actually found the answers. And if they're basically just trading one loan for another, is it all that
Yeah, so
safe? Is really
okay.
hard to say. I mean, depending on the way the loan is structured, it could be safer if it's another loan. But I have a weird
Yeah.
feeling they're selling equity in the company.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like you're
probably they
seeing
do a
bailouts, it's in
yeah.
in a way, like, but private ones. Like it's people say, it's bigger voices in the communities. People like Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm sure there's others that just don't come out and say it, but they obviously they don't want to scare too many people away, right? They want to keep the price of Bitcoin at a certain level so that people, that when it starts to move back up, they can tout that, oh yeah, I was right all along. This was the bottom and stuff. So they want to help these people not get liquidated because that saves the face of crypto right now, because right now everybody's looking at us as if why would you want to invest anything in that entire industry, because everything is even though stocks may be crashing, this crypto's crashing twice that or three times that, and it could still crash more.
It depends on the
It
stocks
depends
you
what's
look at.
on.
I mean,
Yeah.
Netflix went down what, like 70, 80% from its high. Ethereum's down 80% from its high. So it's like,
Shit like
gotta-
Redfin is down 90%.
that's what you're not really
Kramer
safe.
curse.
You're not really the Kramer curse. You're not really safe anywhere in this market,
And
to be real. But to your point, though, I mean, crypto does look terrifying from the outside. I mean, we just showed Celsius. You've got Voyager here with a one-of-a-kind bankruptcy, and I love how they, this isn't their tweet, but the way they tweeted about it, they didn't even mention the word bankruptcy. They were just like, "We're restructuring the company," and
Chapter
it's
11.
just, and
Yeah,
it's
I
just
read
like,
up on that shit.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, Chapter 11. So it's like what they're doing is refinancing their loans and taking out loans. Like you said, they are, one of y'all said, selling equity.
Yeah.
They're basically doing a whole bunch of behind the scene grimy stuff with big bankers, essentially.
I mean, they're doing what they got to do to stay alive. It's either that or they go under. I mean, it's so it's like it's not a good position to be in for any of these companies. But they did dig themselves those holes by rehypothecating users' funds, over leveraging, being degens themselves and putting half their money into 20% yields on UST. So I don't know.
I feel like, and from my standpoint though, like that's good. Like
It's all it's all FUD, lads. I mean, it is in a sense fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But FUD doesn't mean fake news. So like that's the big differentiator. Is it means fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and there is a lot of that, and this does contribute to it. But it's still relevant news that I think should be paid attention to.
When did Celsius or anyone knows when Celsius is releasing funds for people?
I don't
You
use
know,
them.
from all I've heard is they still haven't released users funds, so they're basically paying down their liquidation margin, and nobody has access to funds. Yet there's people on the internet screaming about a short squeeze on the Cell token. So,
See,
it's
what and here's
yeah,
and here's where I was getting at. It's like, let these things die. Like, right? Like, that's the beauty of the market that we have, where if someone does something, it's like me. Like, if I go out and I over leverage myself and I'm at 80% when the market's running, and then everything crashes and I get liquidated, like, no one's gonna come bail me out. Like,
true.
even
But
if I mean, maybe
you're not a systemic risk to the market,
So
though. I
you
mean,
ain't that
true,
important.
it
but
is.
you have to think this: if you bail those people out, right? So if Celsius and all these things get bailed out, what's going to stop them from doing it again and doing it when it's bigger and hurting more people? That's where, unless
For sure.
regulation comes
And
in and there is more protections, but right now there is not.
Well,
that's
if
a
you look
valid
back to
point.
08, 09, it always happens. This is the part of capitalism, is to over leverage and then get crushed and then let someone else bigger take all your assets.
I
Yeah.
will say though, this is a little different than 2008, and it's a little different than the bailouts we're used to in general. I've seen people comparing it to the bailouts that actually basically created Bitcoin. Because if you go back into the early writings of Satoshi, he credits a lot of that to his creation. But it's a little different because back, in that example you have the government bailing out private industry, which is much different than private industry bailing out private industry. It's one thing if a company goes under and another bigger company goes, you know what they had there was good. If we got rid of this and that, let me go and buy the company, essentially bail it out and turn it into something better. That is in fact the free market at play. That's just a business
Yeah.
acquiring another business. And yeah, you could say it's a bailout, but it's different than the government coming in with your tax dollars and choosing which businesses survive and don't. It's private businesses doing what they want with their capital. I mean, in
Well,
theory.
it's very true, because Amazon just did a big deal with Grubhub right now. So they're trying to revive Grubhub, integrate them into their ecosystem. So yeah, that play definitely makes sense. But I get it, as David saying, as a retail investor, really sketchy. It's
And I
not a
feel like
good look.
our job, right? I feel like our job, other than just, being people who bring news, right, to the Algo fam or the, whatever community you may be talking to, investment wise, finance wise, like, our job is when the next bull run comes, right? Because the people who are people who are right now on Celsius, they're the second, I guarantee you, at least for the majority of them, the second they can withdraw their funds, they will, and they're going to learn real quick self custody, and they're going to, they're going to be smarter the next time around. They're not going to have that risk. But
Or they're going to quit.
the problem becomes is the new people that are coming in the market. They're not going to know that type of risk. And that's where it's our job to make sure they're educated on why self-custody is so important. Because I didn't really, I heard the not your keys, not your crypto, but that didn't really sink in until I was really in the market for like 6 to 8 months. And I'm glad I did, because I pulled out of I was in BlockFi. I was I wasn't in Celsius, but I was in certain other ones that, Qcoin, that has had some rumblings that something might be going on. So like, I'm glad that I learned those things and pulled out. So like, when all this stuff was happening, I wasn't really fearing that. But it's our job to educate and help people understand why self-custody is so important.
Well, that part is tough too, because so first we get to self custody, then we have to docs and research on which DeFi platforms, because even a few of those in Algorand has been rocked and bridges have been rocked. So we got to be careful of centralized exchanges, bridges, and DeFi all at one time while we're self custodying. It is a hell of a challenge, and it is a lot of education that one needs to survive. And like, what I like to do is spread out my risk a little bit here, a little bit there, in case something does crash or burn down, not your whole bag is gone. So I definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my opinion, although there is that smart contract risk on DeFi, Algorand has been fortunate to really only have that tiny man hack, which was very unfortunate timing for the ecosystem. But in the grand scheme of all the hacks that have happened in crypto, it's actually like pretty amazing that's all that's happened. And knock on wood, things continue to be secure. But for DeFi as a whole, you see things like Celsius and Voyager and BlockFi going under, and you see solid DeFi applications like Algofi and Folks and other lending platforms on Ethereum liquidating and performing as as intended and remaining solvent. So in my opinion, it kind of emphasizes the importance of DeFi over human-led CeFi.
Yeah,
I agree on that
I
one.
agree. And I love the fact that, like, the platforms we're on, it is true DeFi, right? There is no, central figure that can just come in and just freeze everybody's assets and just change things. That's the beauty of it, and that's why we're in it and why we enjoy it. It's because you don't have that gatekeeper, telling you what you can and what you can't do.
Yeah,
To an extent.
the only what's the name? I had Benedetto on with Folks Finance,
Yep.
and I like what they were doing. I did read portions of their like security audits, but they do like 3-4 different audits and securities. They put a lot of focus into security, and that was something I really appreciate. All their documentation. So if y'all haven't, make sure that y'all click docs on these applications and read up on what they're actually saying on the back end. And then also what I like to do, I'll even go research the company that is verifying them and seeing who they also worked with and what their background is, because you don't want no random company putting out there, like, I think it was I can't remember the name of a random one, but Slow Mist, I believe they were doing some work, but they had bad work that they were doing in the past. But so if you're not educated about these people's history, just like Do Kwon, you got to know what to expect, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
gotta look back.
I want to give a shout out to NF Domains. They sent another super sticker to the live chat,
Hey,
there we
$50
go.
USD. We greatly
shout out.
appreciate NFTs for tuning in. It's a great product, great group of guys. Definitely go check them out if you haven't already. And there is one
Maybe
other
this is
shout.
the maybe the turbocharged help from Algorand Foundation is just that NFD keeps coming onto our show and helping us out. That's what it is.
Shout out to the
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to NFTs and to anyone else watching that wants to support the channel. Further than liking and subscribing to the channels. This QR code you see at the bottom right of your screen is a wallet that all three of us control. You could send Algorand to that wallet, or you could do super chats, super stickers, or you could just like and subscribe. We appreciate that too. Let's see. We've got Jez tuning in. What's going on? And he's asking, can you guys do an update video with all the Algorand news this year, such as WadsPay? We definitely spoke about WadsPay maybe a couple, 3, 4, 5 next blocks ago when the news did come out, but we could do a deeper dive. But speaking of news and partnerships, there has been some shakeups at the foundation. We've got 2 new hires and 1 person leaving the foundation. Let's see. We've got, as a new hire right here, let's see if I can bring this up. We've got Eric Rag. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. When I meet you, I definitely will ask if I'm pronouncing that right. He's joining as the global head of business development and capital markets for the Algorand Foundation, and he has spent nearly 20 years as in executive positions and director positions at JP Morgan. So it's another one-way street from TradFi into crypto. Personally, I'm really interested to see how this hire turns out, but the next one is actually more intriguing to me. The next one, let's see if this loads, is John Woods. And John Woods was part of Cardano, part of IOHK, and now he's joining the Algorand Foundation as the Chief Technology Officer, which in my opinion is really interesting. And from what I've read, the focus is going to be on, he's basically said that Algorand has the best tech, but now the focus is creating the best user experience, which I think is absolutely important because, it's one thing to have dApps that are working terrific, but it's another thing that to have, dApps in a blockchain that's working terrific, that's also extremely user-friendly for everybody to use. In fact, that might be even more important than some of the other things that us technical nerds actually do appreciate about blockchain.
Hey, facts. Like, for a great example is when you look at the Pera Wallet, you can now click Algofi, and it takes you to a link to kind of get your governance going. So we need more of these type of integrations.
Yep.
Like
they integrated Folks Finance as well.
Yes, and Folks Finance. So
they need to do the
trifecta
trifecta and integrate Guard too, because
Guard,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
haven't used Guard yet. Shout out to all y'all over there. I'll test it out.
But
But
you should. I mean, just to give them a little shout out, I will say you should at least test them out with 200 Algorand, because they did just announce that they're doing 5x the governance rewards for your first 200 Algorand. So your first 200. So if you put 200 in, you're basically getting the rewards as if you put 1,000 in, which is fantastic. So even if you don't want to put your whole stash in there, but you want to try it out, go over there with 200 Algo and open up a CDP.
See, this is why I love the Algofi. I'm right here. I'm like, all right, well, show me where the money at. I'll be over there.
Right.
Absolutely,
I will
absolutely.
say this: the part of this John Woods hire that really gets me excited is the fact that, and one of the people, Star Cadius, if I'm saying that right, kind of mentioned it, but with FIFA coming up, right? Like that is still like I know people are mad at me that I'm kind of retweeting some people who are fudding, I guess, Algorand's network activity and how far it's come
Hey,
down,
those
but
fudders blocked me for some reason.
yeah, they do that, but that it is something that, like, having the best tech is one thing, but we need to grow the network, and a
Yeah,
Yep.
huge thing to
absolutely.
grow the network organically, right? And not just by bots and not just by fake wallets or whatever it may be, but is by real world use case. And with FIFA coming up and the World Cup with in it, obviously there was a video that Scaramucci did with David Markley. I can't remember if I'm recalling his name exactly right, but he talked in there about FIFA and what some of the things they're going to be doing with ticket sales and NFT collectibles. I mean, just imagine if there's like, you could own, say Messi or I don't know, whatever your favorite soccer player is, bags a really good free kick to win a match, right? And they
Yeah.
tokenize that NFT and they sell it. That type of stuff. I mean, at that point, I feel like you could possibly start to see NFT sales in the millions, like you.
Oh shit!
Oh no, David disappeared.
Damn, he
He's
was
back
going
though.
in too.
He was
Yeah,
going in. All right, all right. Start where you left off.
Okay, where did I leave off?
you was going. Just continue.
Yeah, literally like 2 seconds ago.
Okay.
You just cut
But
out.
no,
So
like, think about the Bored Apes. They're $1 million sales and like all those NFT things. And imagine being able to own, some of these football players, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and their moments in the World Cup, especially if it's big moments. Those could be big sales. But having John Woods come in, making the user interface hopefully good for when whatever gets rolled out, right? If it's on the FIFA side and he's just helping assist that, or if it's on the Algorand side and making sure that the user interface is good. It's what's needed to make the network activity organic, because people aren't going to use an app if it's not easy to download, easy to navigate. Because I'll be honest, I've been in Algorand for a while, and there's still some dApps on Algorand that are confusing, more confusing than
Yes.
I think they need to be. And especially when I try to explain it to non-crypto, people, they just get confused and they're like, I'll just hold it in my wallet, or I'll just hold it on this exchange. It's earning a decent yield. I'm fine with that. So that's kind of what I was saying. I'm excited about the hire because I feel like he could definitely bring in that, user interface that's needed for the upcoming FIFA World Cup.
Facts. Well said. Now I'm going to add a little comments to what JT was just showing. Uh, it looks like he has a great experience, and I'm not hiring him, but my only concern is he doesn't stay at companies that long. So that's something to consider. He might be in and out. But what I do want to know, if you guys have any input, what exactly was he building on Cardano? I saw a few threads. I did some research, but I'm not quite understanding what IOHQ is. What's the input output?
It said in the release, prior to joining the Algorand Foundation, Wood served as the director of Cardano architecture at Input Output Global, the company that runs the Cardano blockchain. And
Cardano's
then
really
obviously it
slow
talks
in
about his
terms of
other ones,
development.
but I will say, from the threads that I've seen of him posting, there has been many people from the Cardano community that are pretty, not like massively upset, but definitely like, man, that's a big loss for Cardano, a huge gain for Algorand. So, I feel like it might be similar to, like, we're kind of sad to see Kelly leave. It could be a thing where he was very respected in the community and seen as a smart, and I mean, obviously he's smart, smarter than me, smarter than most people. But, I definitely think that based on people's in the Cardano community's reaction, he was pretty, influential.
yeah, yeah. And IOHK, the input output company that he was part of, it was a I don't know if you consider it a company or a think tank or what have you, or foundation, but it was founded in 2015 by the founder of Cardano, Charles Hoskinson. So it's certainly an important part of Cardano, but I will say I don't know the answer to your question. The news was too recent that I don't know exactly what he's built for Cardano or what he has done. But to second David's point, there have been a lot of people in the Cardano community that seem to be sad to see him go, which is likely good news for Algorand, because that people wouldn't be sad to see somebody go if they weren't a good key player in the ecosystem.
It
Yeah,
seems
and
like
it's
in the threads that he's great at explaining like very difficult technical things, and I think
and
that's very
oh
important.
yeah, we need that.
Yeah,
There is
we
so
need a
much that goes
translator.
over even my head, and I've been in crypto for over almost over two
It's like
years now, but it's
1 month.
still so much to learn. And
Well, he's
JT, you've been in it since 2017, and there's still stuff to learn.
Oh,
Like
it's endless, endless. And you're absolutely right. He definitely is somebody that can explain the technicals, the in and outs better than most people here. I mean, before becoming the chief technology officer at the foundation, he was the director of Cardano architecture. He was the senior security architect, applied cryptographer at Informatica. He was the lead architect and applied cryptographer at Consensus, which is another big company. Senior solution architect at the Central Bank of Ireland. He also worked 2+ years at Citi, the Citibank.
Yeah.
So he has a good amount of
Banking and
relevant
crypto.
relevant experience in both, developing crypto systems as well as the TradFi ecosystem. So
Okay, let's get some opinions going. How do y'all really feel about all the bankers joining the Web3 space? Like,
I
I
what
mean,
mean,
do
it's
y'all think
inevitable.
about
I would say inevitable.
yeah, it's inevitable, and there's no way around it. Uh, and honestly, crypto won't grow without that money. I mean, retail money
Yeah.
will only take it so far. You do need the big players, and as much as I understand the concerns, because in a way, crypto was created to, start a financial system outside of the corrupt institutions that we have. But you got to assume that these institutions would be, and society as a whole would be better off if they transition to more transparent and decentralized financial systems versus their closed source black box financial systems at their headquarters, in which nobody can see what's going on in there besides maybe a couple regulators that we have to rely on that are telling the truth and not getting paid by lobbyists from that company.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. Well, go ahead, David.
No, I was actually going to transition to another topic. So if you wanted
Yeah,
to say
I think
something there.
because I have a two-part, like you're saying, I was saying the DMs, I'm seeing Web3 just turn into another form of Web2. Same money, same people doing the same shit, and we're getting almost the same outcomes. So but I do understand that we are early, and they do have the big money, right? Like with the stock market, is like 20% of a stock market is retail investors. I mean, the other 80% is hedge funds. But what I'm really interested in too about that is then when would crypto fully get into our 401ks and things of that nature with all these bankers, and they're going to be selling these products
It's
on a
coming.
bigger
It's
scale.
coming,
Yeah.
and I think there are already companies doing it, but just like smaller fry banks, not like not
Yeah,
the
we need
huge
the
ones
big
yet.
ones.
I agree, but it's happening. It's 100% happening. I mean, you can already put crypto in your Roth IRAs and things like that through companies like I Trust Capital. I mean, hopefully bigger companies like Goldman Sachs will start doing the same, but it's coming. It is.
Yeah.
I don't like Goldman because they were big on the 08, 09 thing, so I got to
That was
agree.
just an example. I mean, I just when I say Goldman, I just mean bigger banks. It could be any
Yeah,
of
I
them.
know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, we can transition, David. What you got?
I was just going to say, one of the things that also I was kind of bringing up, that, some people were saying it was FUD, but I, propose this question to you guys, is how much of, the hires, obviously, and all the money that Algorand has raised over the last year at the end of the bull market throughout this bear market, right? We've seen, the dumping of Algo either from the Inc. or from the foundation, obviously to either ink these massive partnerships. I'm sure some of it's also to fund these hires and the big moves that they're making. How much is this next bull run make or break for Algorand?
Oh, it's
What do you
make.
guys think?
I think it's
Yeah,
make or break
it's
for
a
sure.
100% make or break. That's part of the reason why my investment, even though everyone's worried about this bear market, my investment thesis is 2024, 2025. That's when I expect the next bull market to happen. And unless something drastic happens between now and then, something catastrophic to the chain or Algorand itself, that is when I'm going to be patient enough to reevaluate my position then. Because if in the next bull market Algorand is still underperforming, then you kind of have to reevaluate your stance and reevaluate, where did I go wrong in my thesis and so forth. But I think it's far too early to be going through that sort of thought process now, because it was just started in 2019. It's a bear market right now, and everyone was happy right before the bear market started. So, and fundamentally, things have only gotten better. So in my opinion, it's just way too early to be considering it now. But I definitely do think it's make or break it in the next one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a make or break because we do know with this space, we've seen it. Competition comes faster, and like you got something like Polygon still around.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake. Yeah, so we got a lot of competition, and as we see, like what we learned from Ethereum, each new generation of blockchain, 3, 4, or whatever that comes next, learns from the previous generations, and that's why we have an Algorand because Ethereum did what they did and Bitcoin did what it did. So there is going to be new things hot popping off, and in the next bull market, it could be anybody that has a new blockchain and it runs up. We don't know if it'll last or not, but I think for Algorand to really take a position like Ethereum, they got to really put the work in this next year and a half, like for sure.
Yeah, I'll mostly agree. I do think it needs to solidify itself as a top dog in the space by the next bull run. Primarily, you make an absolutely great point. A lot of new and shiny things come out in the bull market that draw attention away from things that haven't already created that foundation for themselves. If you haven't solidified your position in the pack, then you could get left behind to the new and shiny things that come up in the next period. I've seen it happen plenty of times. I mean, you look at the top 10 or top 20 cryptos from 2017 when I was in it and buying some of those cryptos, a lot of them aren't even in there anymore. And they were solid cryptos, but they didn't create that foundation and solidify themselves as something that, people will be using in the future. I feel much more confident about Algorand than I have about, most things, but it is still something that you should reevaluate as time goes on if it's not happening.
Yeah.
Okay, another topic for you.
No, I was just gonna say, I just feel like just since they're throwing so much money into the team behind it, like this is a make or break. Like they need to make sure that they come through on FIFA. I mean, LimeWire, I know some people were pretty upset. I actually went and checked out their webpage. It actually is not that bad. You can use Algo on it. It will bridge, I think, some Ethereum and Algorand users both ways. Well, I would say more Ethereum to Algo, but there could be some people who maybe want to get one of those collectible things, the 10,000 original ones. But there are things that need to work in the next coming months to make sure that the next bull run, whether it's 2024, 2025, whatever, Algorand doesn't it's not sitting behind things like Doge or SHIB or even Avalanche and like so many of the other L1s that are really just copy and paste Ethereum and just have a bunch of money and VCs and stuff. And I know that Algorand gets the the FUD that we're just a VC backed chain, but I really do think the community can grow organically if they position and use the things like FIFA, Napster, the whole music industry. There's so much out there that people could use it and maybe not even realize they're using it, type thing.
Yeah, my big push that I've been talking to people about is like using Algorand for what it actually for is in transactions. So when I was checking out, I think it was WazPay, right? They got a new app where you can use your a debit card. They got a Visa card, I believe. But the issue I always see with these type of plays is that when you're spending your crypto, it's on the back end immediately exchanging it for US dollar, and then you're spending it like a regular debit card. So therefore, I think that's not a great idea. I might as well just spend my cash if I'm going to do that. So I want to see it where we really load our US debit card with stable coins and then actually use the crypto in the way it's supposed to be used. But I think conversions just don't make much sense if we're trying to use crypto.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, you got to think, I mean, a company wants to hold dollars, not a volatile asset. So, I mean, it makes sense that on their end, they're converting it back to dollars. What it really comes down to, in my opinion, on whether it's worth it or not to do that is regulation, because there's some talk that using your crypto for transactions, even something like that, where they're converting it back to dollars, but you're still using it to transact. There's talk that those transactions won't be a taxable event in the traditional sense. Whereas if you sold Algo, say you were in a profit, you sold Algo for dollars and then used the dollars, you're paying a 35% capital gains tax on that sale. Where if it's a transaction, well, I'm not a regulator, so I don't want to say for certain, but if it's a transaction, the talk is to create it so transactions aren't taxed with capital gains, which makes absolute sense. If you want to use a cryptocurrency as a payment method, I don't think you should be being taxed at a 35% capital gains tax plus sales tax and everything else.
Right.
So. Yeah. Yeah,
Y'all
then what?
want to swing over into governance talk, or do you have something else you want to add?
I just
Just
want to
to
add with Mr. Joker, his comment. He said same with the Coinbase card. He pays bills and USD with the cash back. I definitely that's why I used to use the crypto.com card, but then I end up switching to a Hawaiian credit card because I like earning the miles a little bit more. So I see there's definitely competitions in terms of cash back. So I moved away from cash back and went to the plane flights.
Yeah, I think I made a couple while I was using Coinbase's cashback. I think I made a couple like almost $200 to $300 just in like 6 months of using, using the rewards. I was doing I think the Graph token, but I was literally moving all those, right when I got them to USDC. It was like 4% or 5% or something when I was doing it.
Yeah, that was me with crypto.com. I was earning a good yield on there. But back to Hawaii. Oh yes, most definitely.
As soon as you can.
Let's jump into some governance talk.
Let's do it. What do you have? What are you guys doing for governance? Personally, I'm using currently Algofi and Folks Finance, but I am also probably going to throw a little bit into AlgoGuard as well because all three of them are giving pretty great rewards in their own different ways. So,
I will say this too. Folks Finance just tweeted out that partnership with Algoana. Join Folks Finance Algo Liquid Governance through Algoana and get a whitelisting spot for Algoana version 2 NFTs. So to participate,
wow.
you have to mint at least 2,000 G Algo. So, there definitely is, I think maybe since the, vote didn't get pushed through to, that was in the last governance period, each platform is kind of having to come up with their own, strategies to kind of improvise and make it more enticing. You got Algofi offering an extra 300,000 algos to boost their vault. I am mainly in Algofi vault. But I will say this: last one I only put a little bit in the vault just because I wanted to test it out. This time I've moved almost the majority of my bag into the Algofi vault, and I'm going to also then move some of it into Folks Finance, mint some G Algo there, test that out for first one. I'm gonna do it a little small amount. And then I will probably take advantage as well of the, AlgoGuard, especially since they're, what you said earlier, JT, with I think it's 200 Algo, and it's almost treated as if like 1,000.
Yeah, essentially, it will have the rewards weighting of 1,000 Algo, so you'll get 5x the rewards on your first 200 Algo with Guard.
Yeah, I will say, and this is something that I really, and like I said earlier, that there's some DApps on Algorand that their user interface is still clunky and kind of just not as user friendly. And I'm still in the camp that Folks Finance and AlgoGuard, both of them need to maybe make it easier to understand when you get there how everything works.
You said Folks?
Yeah, the
earning
and claiming and just knowing what your rewards are. Because even when you go over to Folks and you look at Algo, if you supply or deposit, it says in green, 0.17% is what you're earning, but then it says plus 7.79% in Algo. But then when I deposit over on the right side, it only shows I'm earning 0.17. What am I earning? Am I earning that extra 7.79?
That's that's actually a really good question.
If you have an answer right now, explain it to me, because there's things on there that make it more confusing, I think, than it needs to be.
I have the answer. So you're talking about right here where you go to deposit, it says, right next to Algo, close to 8% underneath it, but right above it, it says, a much smaller amount, almost 0.2%. So if you deposit Algo right here, you're only getting this 0.2%. What you have to do is once you deposit the Algo here, then you go over to the left side right here where it says farm deposit, and then you can actually send it over here and get the rest of it, get that 8% or whatever that it's talking about. So all the extra ones, the green is what you get on the traditional deposit, and then the ones below it in a light blue with this little symbol right here is where you get for the farm deposit. But you do deposit it in here. So where it says deposit, you deposit it, and then you go over to farm deposit, and then just toggle this over to however much stake you have deposited, and then it'll show up. It'll show up right here, where you can see, let's see, I don't know if it's zoomed in enough. Let's try to.
Yeah, the only problem I keep seeing with these platforms, which I do love them and I use them heavily, right, to put that out there.
I don't know if you can see, but you can see right here. This is my farm deposit, pending rewards, 35 Algorand, and it pays out weekly.
Okay.
As you're saying,
I guess that's why you have to lock it to get that reward. You have to lock it for the full week.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's what I wasn't understanding. It didn't
Well,
really like when you hover over it, that blue box
I
that
think it's
pops up.
24 hours.
yeah, I
Probably.
think you actually just have to be there in the 24 hours to get the rewards, but it pays out weekly. So if you're in there for
Okay.
24 hours, you'll get the rewards, but it won't pay out until the end of the week. You won't get it like
Okay.
as soon as you unstake, but you do have to be in the staking pool for 24 hours for it to register. You can't just
Yeah.
like hop in and out and get the 8% on like 2 minutes or whatever, you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'd be
So
interested to
the
see
big
once these.
difference is
Go
what I
ahead.
like Humble because they, with their LP pools, they pay right now every
Every
block.
block. I
Every
love
block.
that.
So I love that part. But the only issue I see with like the folks
Same with
finance,
Algofi. They do
yeah,
that with
yes,
their rewards
Algofi.
at the top of the page. It's
But the
real
question
time.
for me is when I know this is early, but when the NAS awards run out, how are we going to be incentivized, right? Because I see
It's gonna be
like
tough.
on folks finance, they do have the community treasury, and it's about 21,000 in there.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's not enough. They need
No,
to
not yet.
It's
yeah,
gonna
so
be
it's
that's
growing.
where I
I
feel like.
understand the process, but I'm just curious on the future. I'm a 5-year thinker out, so I'm like, how long can we be using this?
And I think that's why Stacy maybe is as upset as she was or is on that vote not passing, because obviously once those rewards do run out, like a lot of people have said in on Twitter and around the algo community, is how are you going to compete with 8% or 6% governance
Governance,
if
yeah.
once those are gone and whatnot. And I think that's very true, that like that's what something has to get resolved there. But at least right now, Algofi and Folks Finance and AlgoGuard are doing everything they can to make it, appealing for people to move over. But I will say I have seen some larger accounts on my Twitter feed of people posting that they're still just using the, straight from their wallet. I would be interested to have, them come in the comments and maybe, or even elaborate more why they don't want to use DeFi in that way. And if it's just a smart contract risk, or if it's, they just don't like using anything outside of just their wallet or their, cold storage wallet or whatever it may be. But, that is something that, has to change as it goes on. If we're going to grow, is people got to be willing to use the DeFi that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe the extra foundation rewards, I mean, it's a short-term band-aid, and really the hope is that, by the time the next bull run happens, or the time the rewards run out, whatever happens first, that the ecosystem itself is bigger and the activity on these apps are generating those rewards. Because like, you think about, liquidity providing, for example, liquidity mining, you're making money on every trade that happens on a DEX. And if nobody's trading, you're not making much money. If there's
Yeah.
if there's a lot of trades happening in the ecosystem, you might make a lot of money liquidity providing, maybe even more so than you are right now with the extra, the foundation rewards, but no trading volume.
Yeah.
So hopefully user activity is what, generates those rewards in the future. More people borrowing and lending and paying interest rates and trading and paying trading fees and so forth. So hopefully the idea is the ecosystem will generate the yield that's necessary for it to survive on its own, and hopefully we get there in short time.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say another strategy that I think could be really well. You mentioned Humble DeFi. It's definitely climbing as one of the ones I like. In the Algorand space, and I'm excited to see how it evolves with maybe adding lending and borrowing and things like that. But to really kind of use a lot of them is you could use Folks Finance, right? You could put a lot of your algos in governance there. You can actually claim the rewards early if you wanted to. Obviously, there could be it could be worth waiting. But you could claim your rewards early, move those into something like Humble, where the rewards right now and their farming and LP providing is actually pretty high. I mean, I think in the first, and Algo XCT is one of the liquidity pools I'm in. I'll probably earn almost over 1,000 algo just in that duration of that pool being open, which, I think it was like 60 days or something, which is about it's a full governance period, or governance, or not a full governance cycle, but almost a full governance cycle. So you could really double, triple your rewards right now if you're kind of using these different platforms outside of just having your, algos in your Pera Wallet or your, ledger or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
You can
And some
definitely-
I
go
forget
ahead.
who I forget who posted the article, but somebody wrote up an article the other day about their results from the last governance period using things like Algofi and Folks Finance to basically increase their Algorand governance stack. So basically you do a perpetual loop where, you supply Algorand, and then, whether it's Algofi or Folks Finance, you borrow, more algo or G-algo or whatever, and supply that algo back to governance. And you just basically keep this loop going where you're supplying algo, borrowing algo,
So you read
etc.
my mind. I was just gonna say this.
And the
But it's
results,
super risky.
it is, but it's not.
If you go really far
It,
down.
it isn't. Well, here's
It
here.
isn't if you do it safely, because I
It,
like. I think
if
it was
if you're only supplying algo and you're only borrowing algo, the risk is
it goes
like
up and
basically
down.
non-existent
I guess
because
that's true.
the prices move together in unison. There is a little bit more of a risk with the G algo, which I'll explain in a little bit, but essentially the results of this guy's article and his test was that just by doing this consecutive loop, he was able to generate 2.2x the governance rewards than he would have if he had just done it traditionally without that governance loop. So
Yeah.
there really is all sorts of different tricks to gain bigger yield that isn't actually that risky. And I'll explain the same process with G algo and explain the slightly more risk with it. If you supply algo and then you mint G algo and then you supply that as collateral to borrow more algo to supply to governance, then you have algo and G algo versus algo and algo. And the
Yeah.
difference is slight, but it's also significant. And here's the difference. If you max out your leverage with algo and G algo, in theory, they're supposed to rise together and they're supposed to fall together. But if for some reason the peg goes off a little bit and G algo over here, algo goes up this much and G algo only goes up this much, that little bit of difference, if you're super, super leveraged, could actually liquidate you. Even if the difference is only 1% or 0.5%, if you're very leveraged, then that could liquidate you. So definitely be careful. But I would
Yeah.
say if you're not that leveraged, it's a pretty safe system because the parity between algo and G algo is almost 1-to-1 and should remain that way as long as the ability to unmint back to algo remains.
Yeah.
facts. Like, well said. I agree. I definitely I'm considering tapping into that strategy. It's like you read my mind. So yes, definitely. Because I firmly believe with the Algorand
Well,
ecosystem, my opinion is that I try to keep most of my bag in Algorand overall,
yeah.
and keep my risky plays to a minimum, because I feel like already crypto is risky enough, and
Well,
we are.
well, you got liquidated once. I think that's what
I think
that's why you're safer. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, no, yeah, it was once I had a small little account, did some, yeah, but it was definitely not a good feeling.
no, no, it's not.
So yeah, so after you do get that feeling, you want to be a little more cautious. So I am
Right.
speaking
Yeah.
from experience of liquidation. Yes.
I have yet to be liquidated on crypto, but I have got a margin calls on my Robinhood account before. Fortunately, when you're using centralized entities, they basically are like, they'll give you a couple days to deposit
Yeah.
money and make your account
Or
whole,
see
which
if
is
the market just reacts back
Mhm.
and you go out of it.
yeah. Sometimes you'll have like a 5 to 7 business days to make your account right, which is nice, and it's something that DeFi doesn't have because they don't know who you are. It's not like these apps like Algofi. If you default on your loan, it's not like they have your name and social security number and they can go find you in court or something to repay that loan. So that's part of the reason why things liquidate automatically is to protect the protocol.
Yes, exactly. Two funny comments. Will you be my my risk manager? Yes, sir. I will make sure you don't risk nothing. You're gonna be safe.
Join him in the Discord.
He's gonna be having you holding cash, and that's it. No,
Hey, I just bought some more USDC, man. I'm a low key. I like to lower my risk on the bottom and just
100%.
prepare for the upside. So I'm definitely that person, because what I learned, is like what Warren Buffett said: just don't lose money. That's always the first goal. Don't over leverage, another goal, and then if you can make some profit, that's number 3. Because most people just go straight for profit and then they do some crazy shit. So,
What's going
yeah.
on, Mr. Blue Sky?
Is this a new token?
Have you heard
Fiat?
of this
What
thing
is
called-
fiat?
Yeah. It's called
IAT.
United States dollar. That's what it's called. It's in the bank. But
Oh man,
yeah,
is that
and
another?
honestly,
Is that like another meme coin or?
yeah. And I want to see what Mr. Joker was saying. He said he suggested about Tiny Man with the Tony Gachi. Are y'all using Tiny Man? I'm
I do.
in one pool on Tiny Man.
I mean, I don't use it for LP
network.
farming,
So
but
that's
I do mostly use it for swapping because it still has the most liquidity for some of the
Yeah.
pools or some of the tokens I like to swap. But normally I check DeFi and then it'll tell me where I can get the best swap, and then I do it from there. I don't use DeFi, for a lot of it, but I can easily just go on there and say I want to swap something, and it'll tell me which one's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll use Tiny Men sometimes. It really depends on the token. I mean, I don't trade too many tokens, so I haven't used it in too long. But I'll definitely, depending on which DEX has the most liquidity for whatever token. And if I'm on my phone, I'll use DFly, as David said. If I'm on my computer, then yeah, I'll check tiny charts and see who has the most liquidity or something for whatever given token. But a lot of the times, if there's enough liquidity, especially if it's like on Algofi or something, I'll just use the Algofi DEX because I'm
Yeah.
already there. You know what I mean? I'm
I
already
always
I'm
use
already
Alpha.
claiming my rewards. I'm already staking and farming, so I'm already there. But obviously, if the price impact's too high or there's low liquidity or better pricing elsewhere, I'm obviously going to go elsewhere.
Yeah. One thing, shout out to everybody who's been tapping in. We're not gonna
Yeah.
read all the names today. It's a lot of y'all, but we just want to say appreciate y'all. Make sure that y'all subscribe to all of these channels here. Again, thank you NF Domains for the another tip there. Please show up every week. We appreciate it. But yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we've got about 10 minutes left here before we take off. Maybe actually a little bit. Oh, that is actually 2 o'clock now. We started a little bit late, but
I
I do.
wanted to say, oh
Yeah, no, go
one
for
more
it.
thing. Deshaun too, and everybody else. Tiny Man, the P network just dropped. I'm going to drop a
Yep.
video about that real soon. I'm in a pool. It's some good yields. By saying this, it probably will ruin the yields for me, but it's a good P
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
You're
And
letting the secret
Algo,
out, man.
yeah,
Mhm.
it helped the Algo fail. I
No,
already
this is
hit it
this
a
is
few days.
a little bit of a perfect transition because there's a couple more things I wanted to cover. We're not going to be able to cover it all today, but interoperability was on the docket for discussion, and there's a lot going on. There's state proofs that I believe just came out to the wild. I don't think they're on mainnet, but let's see if I can find this
And I
tweet right
just,
here.
I kind of
We've
sent out a
got
tweet with the
boom.
John Wood hire about him saying that, like, the first use case of state proofs should be Algorand and Cardano,
Oh,
both of them
facts.
using state proofs to verify each other and showing how interoperability between blockchains can happen without having a centralized bridge. I think that would be awesome. And he said, absolutely. So that would be
Absolutely.
cool if something by the end of the year, if he's jumped, because he knows Cardano, right? He was there. He's like the architecture of it
That's
and
his
everything.
job.
So like anyone can help, navigate that bridge and bringing those two together. Like we already know Charles Hoskinson loves Algorand and sees Silvio and what he's built as great for the space. So that would be huge, I think.
So, a question for the audience as well. If you own some Cardano, please leave a Cardano comment in chat. I am very curious about who owns some Cardano. And then
I
for
used
y'all
to.
on the stream, have y'all used like Sunday Swap or any other dApps?
I haven't used Cardano since they actually started launching dApps. I held the token long ago in 2017, 2018, but as with, my entry to Algorand, there wasn't much in the ecosystem at that point, and I sold all my Cardano before the ecosystem kind of started popping off.
Okay.
Star, I'm right there with you. I
Yeah.
literally bought all my Cardano super cheap, like 5x or 10x most of it, and then sold it
nice.
all and rode Algo all the way back down. So all my gains in Cardano got swallowed up with Algo's fall back down to reality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And on the point of interoperability as well, just to wrap up this point real quick, we've got state proofs that are finally working their way into GitHub. People are seeing the first rendition of them now. They're not implemented yet, but we've got Glitter Finance hitting testnet. There's been wrapped Solana and wrapped Algorand hitting, I believe, being spotted on the mainnet. Nothing in circulating supply yet, but mainnet should be within like a week or so for Glitter Finance. As C. Will pointed out earlier, we've got P Network, which, their Bitcoin and Ethereum is already quickly becoming some of our most liquid assets on Algorand. So that's, pretty exciting. And then we've got things like the London Bridge and Algo Mint, and then protocols building on top of state proofs like C3 protocol, all in the works. So it's a very exciting time to see what is going to come from all of this interoperability building. I think it'll be absolutely fantastic. And to your point, Sewell, I do think that the first state-proof interaction is probably going to be Ethereum because that's what they're going for. It's the biggest, has the most liquidity. But it would make a lot of sense if, number two was Cardano because of the synergy between the two communities.
Yeah.
Yes, I got one for y'all too about interoperability. Let's find some Cardano YouTubers and we'll do an interoperable show. Test that out. We got to bridge the two clans together.
Absolutely.
I
So
will say I do think it would be pretty big. Not to say Ethereum wouldn't be bigger. Obviously, that's where most of the money's at. That's where a lot of the developers are.
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to bridge that first. But I just felt like with the hire that Algorand just made, you
Should
know,
be
state
Cardano.
proofs, interoperability with Cardano should be, you know, a big thing.
What's the market caps right now between? JT, you want to
Mm,
pull it up, or I can?
Sure. Yeah, pull it
I
up.
think Algorand's under
Yeah.
2.
Cardano's still top 10,
Maybe it's not under 2. It's
15
close.
billion market cap, and Algorand is 20. Oh, never mind. 28 with 2 billion market cap.
Yeah, 2 billion.
Uh,
I will say, and a lot of people are putting
like
this out that, like, you know, there's still, you know, Cardano has the amount of tokens that Algorand has max supply still to release, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
think
they
they have
have.
But they're also
45 billion.
70 something percent, of the
5x
circulating
bigger
supply
too.
is out.
Yeah. So by
75.
the by the percent of the pie, they're a little bit further along than we are because we're at about 70, 71%, and they're at 75%. But they do have about 12 billion tokens left to enter circulation, where Algorand only has under 3 at this point, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that market cap is much difference.
I just feel like, you know,
Oh,
what, like,
it is a huge difference.
here's something I think is, like, we talk about, Algorand possibly being the ETH killer. I know every chain, that's not a side chain to Ethereum thinks that they're going to be the ETH killer. But, like, what if that's something that happens down the road, is a team up of like 2 chains just growing together end up surpassing something like Ethereum, like a Cardano and Algorand bridged, by state proof, something like that can come up and take that number 1 spot. Because Cardano is a very decentralized as far as the holders go, and it has things that are still building on it. The TVL is growing; it's still young. Obviously, it has a longer record than Algorand does, but Algorand still has more, I feel like, activity on the side of blocks being produced and a lot of the tech stuff. So it'd be interesting to see something like that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've made this point before, and I should have emphasized it earlier when I was talking about when we were discussing make it or break it on the next bull run. Things don't have Algorand or any crypto or any asset that you're holding right now doesn't have to become number 1 for everyone to make money. It could,
No.
in theory, it could remain the same spot it is now, which would, we don't want it to, but it could remain having 0.2 or 0.3% of market share, and the market itself is 3, 4, 5, 6x what it was at the peak. That would mean at the peak, even if Algorand remained with only 0.2 or 0.5% market share, whatever it had during the last bull run, in a market that's 6 times bigger, you got to think that's like a $12 Algorand or something like that. And that's still maintaining just a fraction of the market share. So it doesn't necessarily have to be number 1 as much as we think it should be or would like it to be. So I do think that things like Cardano and Algorand could certainly grow together. And even if they don't take that number 1 spot over the next 4 or 5 years, they could still be in a much better position than they are now.
All I got to say is in the next bull run, I better not be seeing Algo below things like SHIB and Doge and a lot of the other, meme coins out there. I get it that the communities
agree.
are big, but that this is a call for the hires that are coming to Algorand. Obviously we're probably looking at a new marketing person, but
Yep.
that should be your goal. If Shiba Inu is outperforming you, I don't care. Like, if Shiba Inu is at a 80 billion market cap, it hit 40 billion, right? If it's at an 80 billion and Algorand's at 25 billion, I'm sorry, like, there's no celebration yet. Like don't celebrate until we are past some of the
Still got
mediocrity
Dogecoin
that
up there
is,
too. So
yeah, as much as
meme coins.
I 100% agree. Like, I would be totally happy to see meme coins not in the top 10 or even the top 50. But that being said, it would not shock me if even in perpetuity of crypto that there's always some meme or community coin that is in the top 10, even whether it's Doge or SHIB.
Oh no, it can be in the top 10. But Algorand needs to be ahead of it.
I get your point, but I was mostly just saying that, like, there's something really interesting about meme and community coins, and I don't like them. I think most of the people are going to get wrecked on them, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
it does. I mean,
it got me into crypto.
It gets a lot of people into crypto. I mean, during the last bull market, I had people tell. I mean, it also gets a lot of those same people back out of crypto though after they get burned. So
if I would have held my Doge
hopefully it's a net positive.
Yeah, if I would have held my Doge from the start, I only bought like 1,000. I think it was $1,000 worth at the height. You know, the SNL. If I would have never held it that long. I would have
Yeah.
probably capped. You know, ran away at like 20,000 or something. But then again, who knows? I held Opulus all the way up and down. But you know, I would have had over 300K. So I get it. There is a lure. It's like GameStop. There is a lure of those things. But I'm talking about from a standpoint of like, if I was on Algorand's team as a lead person, if I'm Stacy or one of those people, like I'm a competitive person. She says she likes winning. Winning is being ahead of those things. Like you don't,
absolutely.
you're not winning if you're not in the top 5, in my opinion.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I will say just because the top 10 is littered with stable coins, I'll say the top 5 chains. Maybe not actually top 5, because I do think like the 2 and 3 spot or 2 or 3 and 4 spot or whatever will always probably be a stable coin of sorts.
Yeah.
Just because that's the way the market works. But
and that's the reason why I say Doge and SHIB. Like I know that they're in the top 10, but really you take out stable coins and stuff like that.
We top 5.
Yeah, they're almost. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it's just crazy that they hit such high valuations. And
you know, I feel like with the reason, like between stable coins and a meme coin, right? If you call which one a cryptocurrency, they wouldn't call a layer 1 a cryptocurrency. They would call the meme coin the cryptocurrency. Shiba and Dogecoin. That's what I think a common person.
And maybe that's the next big run. Maybe the next big bull run is not so much cryptocurrency, but it is blockchains, right? And it's more this layer 1 like battle, and Algorand will be able to really show off more of what it is. Whereas everybody, you know, if you were someone who came into the, you know, bull market, this last one, and you looked at all of the gains people had from the start, well, definitely Algorand as a cryptocurrency, as a token, was not very luring because it was
still down all time high. Period.
Always been down.
Pera Wallet hides that the real price. They should have it from 4 to whatever we're at right now, 31 cents, but they got it from 41 cents to 31 cents, so it appears that it's not as bad.
Yeah,
Coinbase does the same thing, but to people that like Algorand, that's actually a good thing, because you don't necessarily want people being like, oh, this thing's down, I'm not getting into that. You know what I mean? The rough start could keep people away. But to the whole token and cryptocurrency point, and then we'll get out of here. There is actually a distinction between a cryptocurrency and a token that most people aren't really aware of. And a cryptocurrency is a currency. It's the native currency of the blockchain it lies on. So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency on the Bitcoin network. Ethereum is a currency on the Ethereum network. Doge, in fact, is also a currency on the Doge blockchain. But SHIB is actually a token that I believe runs on the Ethereum blockchain. So it is actually, you know, there is
coins and tokens are different. Yes.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a coin and a token, or cryptocurrency and a token.
Hey y'all, so anyone who's listening, what's good, Damien? Tap in with me tomorrow at 9 a.m. PST. I'll be going live with the guys in Everest, the Nigerian developers that are building. We'll be actually talking about the difference of blockchain and cryptocurrency. So we're about to be going in and breaking down those distinctions of coins and tokens, especially for the people who just want to get some fundamental education.
Fantastic. I saw that
on Twitter.
I saw that on Twitter, I think right before we went live. So I'm going to set my reminders. Everyone in the audience should also set their reminders. And, you know, if you haven't done so already, give us all a like. Go to all 3 channels. Give us all a like. Give us all a subscribe. And, you know, maybe hit that donation QR code down in the bottom right, you know, if you're feeling so generous. But, of course, we appreciate the likes and subscribes. We appreciate the comments. And, you know, share this with a friend. Share it with a non-friend, just somebody interested in crypto. Share it with anybody.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, most definitely. So, yeah, let's close out. That's a closeout, huh?
Let's close out, fellas.
All right, y'all have a great day and weekend.
All right.
If we see you soon.
All right, take care, everybody. We will catch you in the next episode of The Next Block.
See you, everybody.